I'm going to give you the story of how I had to convert a tape. Convert a tape, I hear you say? What on earth are you on about, man? Well, thing is, because we're in Europe, and because we use PAL, and because this tape is from Japan, and they use NTSC, which is very similar to what the Americans use, and there's a problem trying to get things converted. So I'm trying to convert it from VHS to digital. That's one conversion. But I need to also be able to do it from NTSC into something that the machine that I'm using can deal with, and that the computer that I'm using can deal with. And this is where it all gets into a bit of a mess. Now, if you've ever tried doing any of this yourself, you might find that some of the cures I've got are useful to you. If not, then, well, it's an experience and you can just follow along. NTSC is American, it's 525 lines, it's 30 frames and it's 60 fields. PAL and CCAM both use 625 lines, and the thing is, you can't get those numbers to match with the NTSC stuff because the numbers are different. When you work out some complicated equations, it works out that the multiplying this by that and something else equals roughly the same timing. But the fact is, you've got too many lines or too few lines, and you've got too many fields or too few fields. NTSC is an abbreviation for National Television Standards Committee, and basically that's the group that decided what the system was going to be. Had to be backwards compatible with black and white and all the rest of it. And so then you get on to what is PAL. PAL it's an abbreviation for phase alternate line, which is a technical description of what actually happens to the signal. It's a video format, it's standard used in many European countries. A PAL picture is made up of 625 lines and is displayed at a rate of 25 frames per second. And there's the problem. In the old days, they used to point TV cameras at monitors, so you'd have a monitor playing an NTSC tape, and you'd have a UK PAL TV camera pointing at the monitor, and that was the way they originally did standards conversion. Literally, they pointed it at it. In fact, to get around the problem, most internationally distributed TV programs were actually sent around on 16mm film or 35mm film, but mostly 16mm film, so that they could actually just run it through a telecine and would get around the problems. So this is the problem that we've got. This is the legacy that you'll hear people saying that it's down to mains frequency, and that is true, but it's nothing to do with lighting. It was actually down to making the sets relatively cheap so that people could afford to buy them without getting overcomplicated, and we'll see that in a minute. What I'm going to show you now is a YouTube clip, and you can see how the YouTuber is trying to put a PAL tape into an NTSC machine, and you can see the results he got.
Let's get the 1st of November 1992. Okay, so we're gonna put this in. So here we go.
So what you see in there is the picture rolling actually side to side and top to bottom, and it's all because the numbers are wrong. In the old days, TVs used to have a problem, and if you was to try and run a signal through it that wasn't synchronized to the mains, you'd get hum bars. That'd be dark bars scrolling up and down the TV picture. Because this scanning was literally a spot of light dragging itself across the screen and then down the screen, you used to get a lot of flickering, which had to match the mains. That wasn't obviously desirable, so that's why they locked them to the mains frequency. Nothing to do with cameras, all to do with TV sets. Anyway, here you can see the pulsing of a TV. This is because the camera is more responsive than your eye, and that's what you would see. Now imagine if that wasn't synchronized to the mains, you'd end up with that flashing and rolling. That's a very potted history. If you want more information, then put a question in the comments and I'll try and answer it for you. This is the tape in question. As you can see, it says Fujifilm and it says VHS and something else, and then you've got other stuff, Japanese characters, and then you can see on here it's just basically a standard VHS tape. This is the recorder I'm going to use. It's a 6-head hi-fi stereo Nicam. It's got PAL C-Cam, Mesh C-Cam, and it's NTSC, but that's only the start of the problems. This is the USB video interface. And if you buy one of these, you're going to need a lead like this, because otherwise it won't work. They provide you with a SCART connector, but there's no gender changes. For the benefit of my American viewers, a SCART connector is a European standard that was very useful because it had RGB and it had various other signals, control signals and input-output audio, all sorts of things, and it was all in one plug. So you just had to have a fully functioning SCART cable to plug from one thing to another, and it just worked. It's great. 20 years later, and people don't know what they're for. Because this is a hi-fi one, they catered for that, so you got SCART down the bottom with the 3 connectors in it, then you got a video out above the blue SCART, and then you got the 2 audios out. And this is what it looked like on the computer screen. Wow! The capture device is supplied with 2 types of software, and it's quite good really. But you'll need access to a CD drive. So this is the first time this tape's been played for about 20 years. We pop the tape in here, and then we'll go and have a look and see on the plasma what the results are. This is a Panasonic plasma from 2008 or somewhere around about the time, and it's multi-standard, so it's quite happy to take in virtually anything. It doesn't bother telling you what it is, it just gets on with it. And I've no idea what any of this says, but it's an introduction to a stage play. But the thing is, if you'll see here, it's quite happy to display it, and in a second you'll see how good it is, because it will play it back. That roll-in, by the way, is because the tape needs to be loosened up. This is literally the first time it's played, but look, it's in colour. There are people, and there are people on the stage, and it's in colour. Absolutely magic. So that is playing back an NTSC tape via a French video recorder onto a Japanese telly sold in England, and it's in colour. So even though I said it wouldn't be able to do it. This is the problem. This is the same show from the same tape, only it's on the computer, and you can see there that it's not in colour. Just to prove it, back to the plasma, there it is in colour. At this point, some skeptics will be saying, oh, you haven't got it connected up right, and various other things, but let me just show you this. This is what we saw before. This was the menu, and this is what it's like playing an NTSC tape. It is not compatible. Now it's realised that it's locked in. Now if I switch it back to the video, you'll see that the video is all upset because it's been locked in on this PAL menu. And that is what the problems are, because quite simply everything's trying to work but it can't because the numbers are wrong. You've got to get the numbers right, and it can't do it. So what that's putting out is a thing called PAL 60, which is 60 frames, essentially an American TV picture with a European colour signal. Second capture software is much easier to use than the first one, but it still doesn't work. Those eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that it's not a very good result because it's black and white, and secondly, that there was this on top of the video recorder when I put the tape in. This is a Panasonic hard drive and DVD recorder, and it's, because it's a DVD thing, it's capable of using NTSC, PAL, etc. And what's more, it's got a time-based corrector in it. Time-based is the time it takes effectively. Well, what they do is they have a thing. We're talking about 25 frames and 65 lines. Well, that means you can work all that out. It's one of these complicated numbers I was telling you about. But basically, there is a time it takes to get from one side of the screen to the other, and from the top of the screen to the bottom. And a time-based corrector allows for the errors and then makes it accurate, which is very useful when you're coming off a tape, because tapes have a habit of stretching. So that's what it's there for, basically. And, well, you'll find it comes in quite useful sometimes. So let's carry on. Wobbly camera work. So now what I've done is here, you can see there is a SCART lead here, which is a full function SCART lead, which is taken out where I originally had the adapter, and I put that into the bottom, which is the input to the HD recorder, and then from the top of the HD recorder coming out on the SCART, which will then feed into the computer. And if you look round now, you just go widdly widdly widdly, round we go, and there we have a colour picture on the computer, which is what we wanted. I'm quite pleased with that. Much to everybody's amazement, and certainly mine, that has actually managed to turn it from a PAL 60 into a PAL 50. It's a proper 50 frames PAL signal that's coming out of there. Don't know how many lines it's got. It's probably still only got 525 lines, but it's a proper PAL picture as far as that's concerned, which means that it will play on a normal TV, and in this case it plays onto the computer in colour. So what I'll do now is I'll show you the actual captured footage and any sort of processing that can be done to it just to improve it. This is the actual footage, and you can see there's a bit of an error at the bottom of the screen, but I'll show you what to do about that, because it makes no real difference. That is the difference between 50 and 60 frames, and this is the actual specs on the file. Here's the same thing, but now I've reframed it, I've cropped it to be the right shape and size, and it looks alright. Finally, I've run it through a video processor to give me a little bit sharper and a bit less noise, and that's it. Anyway, hope that's been of use to you, and if it has, maybe you'd like to subscribe and click on the odd like or whatever, and I'll catch you another time. There's a good video coming up here.